Selena Wang, senior White House correspondent, also senior national correspondent Terry Moran, along with Daryl Blocker, former CIA operative, and Louis Martinez, who covers the Pentagon for us, all monitoring, of course, a political event, trying to garner the support of those who serve. So let's just take a round robin here as we continue to listen to Tulsi here. Terry, we heard the former president mention the fact that he got the endorsement that we covered just a handful of days ago, RFK Jr. Endorsing the former president. And we've talked about whether those numbers will give him a boost or not. But if indeed Tulsi Gabbard jumps on board endorsing the former president, how do you think that these supporters that he's getting to just support him publicly, endorse him, ask for their supporters to turn over and support him as well, the impact that we could see moving on into November?
For every single one of our lives.
Well, Kira, I think Donald Trump is essentially assembling a coalition of the anti-establishment, right? That's how he came into politics. That's how he came into the presidency. He was lifted into the Oval Office in many ways by people who had given up on politics or had very unpopular opinions on what should be done, and he is trying to build on that. RFK Jr., he says, has opinions. He didn't mention it, but certainly on things like vaccine and drugs that he said people didn't listen to for a long time, in large part because a lot of research had disproved his opinions. And nevertheless, he brought him on because of that maverick or anti-establishment, anti-regime is the word that Trump supporters use. Tulsi Gabbard is another one very much like that. And so Trump is essentially trying to build out his coalition or deepen it with people who were Democrats, who are Democrats, who are more comfortable with his attitude on these things.
Selena Wang, what do you think the impact of Tulsi Gabbard could be? I mean, clearly she's a part of this because she's an Army Reserve officer, but also former politician, activist. She's out with a new book. She's been getting a lot of headlines there. How does Trump see this as an asset to him?
Well, look, I think, first of all, when it comes to the Harris side, they would think that this impact is minimal. They believe this is going to be a close race, and someone like Tulsi Gabbard isn't going to exactly broaden Trump's appeal. But when it comes to RFK, that could be more impactful, right? He was only polling in the mid-single digits, but the question of which direction those voters go, that could obviously make an impact in some of those critical battleground states. The Trump team, of course, is hoping that that could be consequential in some of those states that came down to just thousands of votes in 2020. But from the Harris side, they don't see it as having much of an impact because we've already seen RFK Jr.'s polling come down since Harris had gotten into this race. So some of those more Democrat-leading RFK Jr. supporters had shifted towards Harris. And the other ones, they believe, may just stay at home without RFK Jr. on the ballot.
All right, Terry, I understand that Tulsi Gabbard did just now endorse Trump. Is that right?
That's right. We just heard it there, Kira, that Tulsi Gabbard throwing her support, whatever it might be, to Donald Trump. And it must make Trump very happy. Obviously, he likes support from just about any quarter. But he has suffered, he would say, for years from Republicans coming out and saying that they cannot support Donald Trump. Republicans coming out for his opponent. And we saw Adam Kinzinger at the Democratic National Convention saying, as a Republican, I cannot vote for Donald Trump. He's turning the tables a little bit here. And the impact of both, might be marginal given their constituency. But what it does, each candidate hopes, is give people the permission, as it were. Adam Kinzinger up there at the Democratic National Convention saying, come with me, you know that you can't support Donald Trump, to his fellow Republicans. And Tulsi Gabbard here essentially trying to say the same thing. We are Democrats, and we can't support Kamala Harris. We do think Donald Trump is better. It scrambles the board a little bit. Impact may be minimal, but in a close race, everything counts.
Yes, it does, Louis, including the former president bringing up that withdrawal from Afghanistan. What we saw, Louis Martinez, a deadly outcome. We lost U.S. service members when the bomber was able to get close to Abbey Gate there. We are expected to hear Trump continue on there, of course. Well, here's the moment that it all happened back in 2021. We'll never forget the Afghan people jumping onto the wing boarding of that Air Force cargo plane, trying to get out of there once they learned that U.S. troops indeed would all be leaving Afghanistan. The former president talking about that withdrawal, what a disaster it was, Louis, and now bringing that into this whole conversation come November, hoping, of course, to garner the support of the military, as he needs every vote, as Terry said, he can get right now.
Yeah, Kira, what we're hearing from Donald Trump over the last week is trying to tie Kamala Harris to the withdrawal. As you said, it was a chaotic withdrawal. It turned into a deadly withdrawal when a suicide bomber detonated a device at the airport in Kabul that killed those 13 service members. Earlier today, Donald Trump was at, as you heard Tulsi Gabbard say, was at Arlington National Cemetery, laying a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns along with 2 families of those 13 who passed away in that attack. But what the claim that President Trump, former President Trump, has been trying to lay on Kamala Harris is that she would have been in the room, in the decision-making room, when the Biden administration was making the final decision about whether to accelerate the withdrawal from Afghanistan. We should remind ourselves that President Trump was the one, it was during his administration, because he advocated for the end of what he calls these endless wars. He was the one that arranged the deal with the Taliban that would have arranged for the United States to pull out of Afghanistan. What he disagrees with is how it was handled by the Biden administration and the pace of that withdrawal.
And just talking about the pace of that withdrawal, Daryl, and the lives lost, I mean, it impacted the security in the region as well. And, of course, you know, with these ongoing wars and what we've seen in the Middle East and Israel going after Hamas and then countries like Iran jumping in on all the action, no doubt he's probably going to pound on the fact that that's, you know, just one issue leading up to what we're seeing now in the Middle East that's impacting security in the region.
That's absolutely right, Kara. There was an immediate and enduring impact on not just security in the region, but as you noted, global security. But the former president needs to be careful when he's talking about getting rid of everybody who was involved with that, because the Joint Chiefs served under both him and under Biden. The chairman of, or the commander of CENTCOM was also in charge of it, and the overall military commander for Afghanistan. So they all worked for and were promoted under the Trump administration, and he can't just completely disassociate himself with that. But make no doubt about it, Kabul was a debacle. The administration should have handled it differently.
Selena, Terry, Louis, Daryl, thank you all so much. We'll continue to monitor the event right there in Detroit.